The artist's brain is an independent variable. When brought into the everyday world, their senses find meaning in even the most mundane observations. The reaction must only be told by the artists themselves. I'm Loverboy, and this is an experiment. Today's guest is a singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist, finding himself writing and producing for artists all over the major label scene and collaborating on records with some of today's favorite artists. He recently released a song with popular artist Garrett Nash called Superglue that truly shows off his ability to be an artist. Please welcome today's guest, Slimdan.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Welcome, man.
What's up?
I'm happy to have you by the studio. I appreciate you coming in, as we were just talking about, going through the hellish, rainy LA where people forget how to drive.
We persevere, my man.
Yes,
we make it happen. It's crazy out there.
So tell me a little bit about you. You're an instrumentalist. What does that come with? What instruments?
I would say, like, I fall into that line of, like, John Mayer kids. Like, I you know what I'm talking about? Kind of like the Live at Nokia like movie that he put out. So I would say like guitar player first, and then sprinkle in some piano.
Killer.
And then like if you play guitar and piano, you can kind of figure out any other instrument. But I would say those two, like, I feel like I'm not fucking up all the time.
Yeah, and then
just sometimes.
So I'm sure finding that root note and sitting on the bass isn't too hard for you either.
But like for lack of better terms, whiteness just really comes out on the bass. I would say it's definitely a good amount of. It takes a couple of tries,
not as much swing.
Not as much swing, right? But no, you figure it out. You make it happen.
So you grew up in California, Sherman Oaks,
the Shokes,
and you grew up in an Orthodox Jewish family.
Yes, sir.
And how, as a kid, did you find the music that you're into and that helped kind of shape you in a family that was more religious?
Totally. I'm lucky that my mom, I'd argue, has like one of like the best music tastes out of anybody I know. Like, she can get Jewy with the music for sure, but like I was raised on like Paul, like, I mean, I guess they are all Jewish, but Paul Simon was a huge staple in my house, and the Beatles. So I think that sort of that built-in infrastructure of music was like really, really good for me. But simultaneously the MTV thing was happening, so it was like Fergie, Black Eyed Peas, like all that kind of like 2000, like early 2000s music happening.
The pop era,
exactly. Which for me, I always go back to, because that's like Ludacris is like. I know it's not a popular opinion, but that guy's got mad bars.
Oh, he's unreal.
Luda spits the truth, man.
I feel like anybody who spent half their time at bar mitzvahs likes Ludacris.
I mean, and I was a frequenter, so I mean, Flo Rida, like all those people. I think I'm equal parts Paul Simon and equal parts Flo Rida, I would say.
That's a mixture.
Yeah, that's the combo.
So what music was your mom showing you? So it was Paul Simon, it was Flo Rida.
It was, I mean, funny enough, Flo Rida was MTV. That was like when like American Idol ended or whatever, and my mom went to bed. Me and my sister would like, MTV was just constantly like circulating music videos. So, and that was like pre-YouTube too. So like that was kind of the way I found out about like, I mean, Get Rich or Die Trying is like a top 10 album for me, like hands down. And like, so I would say my mom was kind of giving me more of the classic rock perspective, and then MTV was kind of educating me on the kind of more hip shit.
In what part of it did you fall in love with first? Was it did you fall in love with the songwriting? Did you fall in love with the instrumentation, the rapping when it comes to people like Flo Rida and Ludacris?
That's a good question. I think it was the voice initially, which is funny because I'm like a pretty mediocre singer, but like I remember hearing Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and like when they would do like a 4-part harmony, I'd be like, what is happening right now? Why does this feel so good? So I think it was I remember it was that song, Helplessly Hoping. I don't know if you know that song. And it's this crazy 4-part, beautifully arranged harmony. And I remember like sitting with my mom and her trying to explain. It's like one guy's singing this and the other guy's singing this, and it kind of like rocked my world.
They really started a world of harmonies that now is pop music.
100%.
I mean, that's what it's built on. You find people like Billie Eilish, where 75% of their song is just vocal layers built up that make chordal structures or whatever it is.
100%. And it's it can be done. Another major lesson I've learned is it can be done tastefully, and it can It can ruin a song too if you overstack it.
Dude, over the top harmonies are
right. So it's kind of an interesting balance. But yeah, I think they're responsible for so much, and not only from that, but even songwriting wise, like Deja Vu, it goes down as like such a good album. Oh my God.
Was the idea of being in this industry something that you thought about growing up?
I think my parents were just super stoked when they found out I could get a degree in music and I wasn't going to be like a complete bum. Like I remember my dad found out about this like Berklee College of Music summer program, and they were just like desperate for me to like have a degree because they're Jewish parents, obviously. So once my dad identified that and kind of showed me that route, I think it started to open up the idea of like, oh, people go to school for this. This is like actually kind of a job that people do. It's not just like
there's some sort of path that
right.
can
There's
be taken.
some sort of path you can take. So I think once my dad's really good in this way is that he's good at identifying like his kids' like passions and then sort of setting it. Like my sister was super into like photography, so he got her like he like connected her with his friend who was into photography, and then she went to Parsons. So wow. I think similarly he identified within me that I was into music and was like, you should just like fucking go for it. And I was like, I mean, I was like a real shithead, like teenage kid. So I needed that direction. And once that happened, I was like, oh, you can be like a composer for TV shows. There were so many different routes. So.
And you started making music for other people. That's how you kind of got into the industry.
I would say the industry is such a big thing. So like, yeah. I was playing like how long have you been in LA for?
6 years.
Okay, cool. Do you remember this venue called Room 5?
I know of it.
So like there were like these places like Room 5 and like early on Hotel Cafe where it was like they would let like anybody play there basically if you could sell tickets. Yeah. So I would just like come through with my mob and like I would play like little like I don't know like 20-minute sets with me and my acoustic guitar. So I think like that was my first entry point into the industry, and sort of I would like busk on the street and kind of do it like that. But in terms of like putting out my own music, I started doing that in college, and I quickly realized how much I hated that. It's that you have to really shout about yourself, like even more so in today's industry. But even back then, I remember like just berating my friends on like Facebook Messenger specifically, being like, you need to come to my show or else I'm gonna die. Like I remember just being like crazy shows, like I need you to be at this show. Yeah. And it just felt kind of icky to me. So I remember just being like, I don't like this. I
definitely have probably way too many people who I haven't talked to in like 6 years, and the last time I did was on Facebook asking them to listen to a song or whatever, as they're sending out, hey, I'm doing this DJ contest. Yep. Will you please vote for me? I know we haven't talked in 10 years, but it's tough. In becoming an artist, a lot of people understand that it comes with being able to make great music, and it comes with making something that other people can relate to, but it also, you can make the best song in the world, and if nobody hears it, what do you do with that? And it's still art, and it's still important. And as we were talking about before, part of being an artist sometimes is also doing the other work to make the money and keep it enjoyable.
Sure.
So you found yourself in a community of some pretty really talented people out in Los Angeles. Did you kind of find your way into that industry as an artist or as a collaborator, as a producer or instrumentalist or songwriter?
I'd actually say more as a friend first. I think that was kind of I wasn't even on purpose, but like I just happened to meet these people at different points in my life and like kind of buddy up with them. Yeah. And then before you know it, like we were all just in LA together. So I went to music school. So obviously you're playing music together, but like there's actual friendship that comes out of that for sure. So I think it was just like a bunch of homies that were in LA at the same time. And then I would say it was like, I remember intentionally trying to establish myself as like collaborator guy versus artist guy, because there's so much of that already happening. And it's just easier for me at least, the collaborator thing was like a much chiller way to like get into the room with people.
It's almost more natural too. It's like if you walk in the room and your intentions are, hey, I would love to make music with this person, and that's it. Or I'd love to learn from this person. I'd love to find experiences with this person. Then some amazing songs can pop up. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people walk into the room going, I need to be the artist in the room. Yeah. I need to be this. A little too much set with the role before you understand the ecosystem that you're walking into.
Absolutely. I mean, I was like, It's funny. I remember like this one pivotal moment where I had just started doing sessions, and like I was just starting to like talk to publishers, and I was like just getting my foot in the door, and I was having such a miserable time. I was so upset at myself all the time, and like everybody was like, Rihanna, we're going to send this to Rihanna. And like, well, I was like, what does that mean? And it's like, nobody's sending anything to Rihanna. It's just like kind of something people would say all the time. I was just so like uptight. And then my friend Sasha was just like, I think you just need to make this about having a good time and making people like, just go in there and be yourself and have a good day. That should be your number one objective.
Do it for you.
And just screw the song, screw whatever's, like just have a good time and make it about like make that the number one priority. And once I shifted my mindset into that, which was very early on into me kind of entering the music space, it just became so much more enjoyable, and so many more things started to happen for me once I made that adjustment.
So now it's almost the new year, and we're going to 2022, and this has been the first year, at least from my perspective, that you've released music as an artist. You have 2 songs out, Super Glue and MVP. Both are not only catchy as hell, but they're really, really well done, and you can tell that these aren't made from somebody who's trying to be an artist. These are made from somebody who has the ability to be in the industry and has the ability to make things at a professional level, who's also doing this, you know, like
Thanks, man.
It's very, I feel like most people, when you see 2 songs on there, you expect this is the bottom of what's going to be a very long list until they get to the point where they figured it out. And these are 2 very figured out songs.
Thank you.
Tell me about those 2 songs. Tell me about MVP first.
Sure.
That was the first that you released in 2021. And what was that experience like, kind of jumping back into the artist side of things?
Totally. First off, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I think that having something to say is such a huge part of being an artist. And there's so many people just shouting all the time, just absolute nothing into the universe. And I felt for a long time like I was filling that role pretty well in terms of just like having nothing to say and just like copying whatever artist I was very into at the time. So I remember thinking to myself, like, I don't feel like I have anything to say right now, but hopefully one day I will have something to say. So why don't I just focus on this other pocket while I kind of figure my shit out and sort of figure out what I like and what I want to say. And over the course of 3 years, I think a narrative and a sort of a tone started to develop within my writing and just being a human and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of was preparing myself for that. And then once I felt like I kind of understood, I started writing songs here and there with like very close collaborators.
Totally.
Not even with like some grand idea of like, I'm going to be an artist, but more so like, I think I want to say this. So MVP was kind of in that first batch of songs where I was like, I think I just watched like Field of Dreams or something. And I was like on my baseball shit. I'm very, I love baseball. I love basketball, especially watching it. So I think that was sort of on my mental. And I had this one guitar part and it felt like me. It felt like something I would play. And then through writing that song and a couple others, I felt like a story was sort of starting to unfold a little bit.
What percentage of the songs that you write as for yourself do you find that you want to release?
Every one of them.
Every one of them. So you're not writing 40 songs to release 3.
I'm not a prolific writer like that, I would say. There are certain people where it's just oozing out of them all the fucking time, like they are their music and their music is them. And I'm so in awe of those people. But for me, it's really like this long, hard, torturous process.
I'm right there with you. When it comes to an idea, music-wise, instrumentally, that comes a lot more naturally to me. But sitting down and writing about my feelings or writing about a situation and trying to not make things so in your face, make them a little bit more metaphorical or whatever it is, that's very tough for me. And that takes legitimate thinking. What did you find was some good practices to kind of keep yourself moving along this journey if it does take longer?
Writing for other people all the time. So that's just your homework, you know what I mean? That's the way I saw it, at least, was sort of like, that's just practicing. So I got to fail 95% of the time writing for other people and sort of watch what their instincts were and see what the producer's instincts were and see what my instincts were and sort of balance all of that out. And I think through doing that, I was able to kind of keep my pen game going. And then, I mean, I'm sure you have this too, but kind of like a notes section on your phone of like titles and concepts and stuff like that.
Mine's like half my gigabytes at
Right,
this point.
exactly. Like mine, I'm like swiping down for hours at this point.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think every once in a while I would kind of like write something. That MVP was an example that I wrote MVP down and I was like, I don't think like BB Rexo wants to talk about being the MVP. I kind of want to talk about it. So I remember just kind of like stash a couple away for myself.
Yeah.
And while writing for other people, kind of like keep practicing my writing. And then like when I felt ready to write for myself, go in with the intention of like, I'm now going to write for myself.
Sweet. That makes sense. I feel like if the pen's not moving constantly, then that's a muscle that goes weak, and you really do have to keep working it out. And eventually, you get to the point where you understand that when you walk in a room with a certain artist, that's what you're doing, and when you leave, you still got to keep that going. But maybe it can become something that feels more individual, more yourself.
Sure. And I think as you figure yourself out, you kind of know what moves you like. I mean, I think of it like basketball. It's like, it's like songwriting to me is like you make your crossover for like the verse, and then like you drive to the paint for like the pre, and then you slam it in for the chorus, hopefully.
And you gotta chill out. You can't press.
You can't always press. You cannot always press. Whoever's listening, save your energy.
It's like the one sports term I know.
You're crushing it.
I'm doing it, Dad. So, what about your second song? It's with Garrett Nash, who went by, is it, or does he still go by Nash, or is it just Garrett Nash now?
I think he was Nash before, but he is now transitioning into his actual legal name, which is Garrett Nash.
Killer.
Yeah.
And were you guys friends before you wrote the song?
Yeah, so Garrett and I were working on his album that's going to come out over quarantine. Killer. He was one of those people I didn't meet in person until like a year after knowing him, which is like I feel like a lot of relationships that are popping up in a lot of people's lives right now. But I had been working on his project, and then he just texted me and was like, "You want to put out a song together?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm down. Let's do this thing."
Why not?
So I just sent him a couple ideas, and Superglue was one of them, and then we kind of fleshed it out together.
How much of it did you have ready pre-session?
Basically all of it. I would say he definitely put his own spin on it and came in and tweaked some lyrics, but I wrote it with my friend Christina Galligan, and that was just it's funny, I think, in terms of like we're talking about like just writing for other people, but then it's important to keep writers around you that you feel comfortable with and like keep you inspired.
Yeah.
So she's definitely, I kind of have like a handful of people that like she's one of them where I just like writing with them makes me feel good and like makes me feel like I can write from a more personal place because I'm comfortable.
Totally.
So it was one of those sessions one of the rare sessions actually where there wasn't a clear objective, and I was just like, let's just vibe. And we wrote that song, and it was like my friend Kelly, who works at Atlantic, ended up sending it to Garrett's team, and then full circle he texted me and I was like, what about this song? And then it all kind of came together.
Killer.
Yeah,
it's wild how things kind of find their place as long as you just keep going. So kind of to wrap this up, I wanted to ask, because there's not a lot of people, the point of this podcast is to really show somebody, whether it's a kid or somebody who wants to change their career and get into this, to kind of give them a little bit of a guide, show them a little bit of a direction, as much as you can in this industry. What would you tell a kid who's sitting at home, 15 years old right now, in a religious family, who wants to do what you're doing and wants to be where you are? Is there anything that specifically you would say to kind of give them a little bit of light of where to head?
There's a lot of things I would say. I think it's a combination of a couple things that I would want to tell them. I'd say write a million bad songs. Just like keep writing and figure out what your perspective is and sort of what makes you the writer that you are. And I think the only way to do that is to try a bunch of different things. So go through your like weird SoundCloud rap phase, go through your screamo phase, go through your country phase, and ultimately you'll probably land somewhere that feels like you, which is hopefully a combination of all those things that you enjoy. So just keep writing. And then I would say the biggest advice I give to people, I don't call it this, but it's just RTR, which is read the room. And that's, I would say for me, like, that's been my biggest skill set in all of this, is like, I don't think I'm necessarily the best writer. I'm definitely not the best singer. I'm not the best guitar player, but I think the ability to read the room and sort of come in and be like a good energy in the room will take you so far. Cause there's so many unpleasant people in this industry that are awesome and so good at what they do. But I think people are always looking for talented, cool people that are just like easy to be around.
And friends.
Exactly. and just connecting on a friendship level, I think that'll take you so far. And sort of, and more specifically in the read the room thing is like, if you're in a room, right, and there's this artist who's just like all over the lyrics, they're just crushing the lyrics. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't need to be the main lyricist in that session. You know what I mean? And kind of like reading the situation and being like, where can I put myself in this situation that will benefit the song and the entire thing, versus being like, I need to come in here and show everybody that I know how to write like the fucking sickest verse ever.
Being the most useful is not doing the most. That's not what it means. It's finding the actual missing piece of the puzzle and filling that, and not trying to fill pieces that are already there. You gotta make this moving structure where you're not stepping on people's feet. And like you're saying, reading the room it's not about knowing the most. It's not about thinking that you're the best in the room. It's really just about understanding people at a human level, and realizing that you're all there to make something happen. And if you're all trying to do the same thing, then there's going to be a lot of parts that don't happen.
100%. And I think just to add on to that, I think diversifying your skill set will only help you in that scenario. Because like there are certain rooms I walk into where nobody plays an instrument, and it's like, I can be that guy today. And there's certain times where I'm playing with, or like, you know, there are people that are like virtuosic, like piano players, and I'm just like, or virtuoso piano players, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna come anywhere near that. That is their thing. And I'm like, and they're crushing that, and I can focus more on the top line or whatever. So I think just get not even good, just be okay at a couple of different things, and then implement those based on the situation.
I think a lot of people needed to hear that it's not all about being the best in the room. It's really about understanding the room, understanding people, and being a fucking good person at the end of the day. If you can be a good person, somebody's going to want you in the room more than the asshole who might be a little bit better than you.
Or at least pretending to be a good person. Get really good at faking it.
Hey, that's a big part of it. There's a lot of people who do that.
I'm just kidding.
Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you by, man.
Thanks for having me, dude.
I'm really excited to hear song number 3 through 100 that comes out
January 18th.
And everybody go right now and listen to MVP and Superglue. They're out. And Slimdan, it's been such a pleasure to have you by the studio.
Thanks for having me, man.
And to everybody listening,
I am Slimdan, and this is most definitely an experiment.
Goodbye, everybody.
The experience is the experiment.